Hello, everyone. Well, that was really fantastic playing. Nice job. It's quite a large ensemble. I didn't realize there were so many students in the back because I was sitting in the front row and couldn't quite see all the way in the back. But really, really good and very impressive that everyone was able to learn this material. It's not easy music to do. Should we start with the first piece? And then go to the second piece, just kind of do it in order. I didn't listen to this, well, I didn't watch the score in the first piece, so I was just kind of like watching everyone play, and it was interesting to see how everyone was like kind of communicating, bobbing, looking at each other for cues. At least the people in the front row, I could see a lot of that happening. I guess maybe the only primary comment I would have about the first piece is that I'm probably losing my hearing too. I don't think I quite heard the triangle. I think was it you that played the triangle in the first piece? Yeah, I was gonna say maybe something like slightly heavier beater, or maybe play on the flat part of the triangle where it goes like this instead. But that could have been just from where I was sitting. I don't know. I just noticed that because that was like kind of like an exposed primary part, and I was like, oh, shouldn't I quite hear the triangle? Kind of blends in with the other metal type instruments like the bells or vibraphones. But overall, really, really well done. Maybe Michael, do you want to comment on the first piece? And then the second piece, I had the score and was following along the score, not watching you so much, but just like watching the score, listening, and have a few comments on that. Cool.
Yeah, hi. Great job, first of all. Sorry, just come on this side. Great job. That was fantastic. You know, without going too much into like the detail, like the triangle is a great comment. I think you were playing with the back side of the triangle beater. You know, it's funny. It sounds so loud when you're in front of it, but really it doesn't cut through without like a little bit of heavy metal. Yeah. Even my students will tell you, I yell about that. And nodding back there saying the same thing. So, but my comments are more general about both pieces, I guess. First of all, wildly impressed. I'm just thinking, like, I don't know about anybody else, but when I was in high school, the idea of like playing unconducted music is, to me, just would have been possible. So like already at that level, it's like traveling up here. But you know, also maybe we have a funny job that we do, in that like, you know, if you're playing in a violin section or even flutes or woodwind, you know, there's a few of you all kind of playing the same thing. If not the same note, you're playing at the same time. You're creating, and we kind of have that too. Yet every single person you're playing chamber music, right? Every single person is basically one player to a part. Whether you're in concert band, you're here. How many people playing in the jazz band at school, right? A few of you probably. How many people play in a rock band? I did for a long time. Everybody is like one person to a part. So maybe there are some times when I would say it's okay to turn around, like you can designate people to lead a section or to conduct, maybe since you're in front, you know, to turn around and just literally give some of those places to start and stop. I don't know if that's like within the I don't know whether it's in the, I don't know if it's like
sometimes
the marching band
tradition,
right? I know that in certain traditions of music, like I'm not a marching band person, so I don't know if there's like a vibe that's not cool. But you know, I think of like a string quartet. You see a string quartet play, and the first, you know, I can tell you right now, I have some friends who they're like dancing up there while they play, and they're not doing it, I think, as well. Maybe some of them are doing it just to get attention. You know, first violinist thing. But I think most of the people are doing it because they're really trying to lead and guide how the music should feel, what should happen. I noticed there were a couple places, like after a fermata, when the next thing started, it took a second for everybody to kind of gain their traction, to know where time was and things like that. And I think the easiest thing, if you get done with the fermata, it can be you sitting in front. You can take conducting credit, or it could be somebody in the back, if everybody knows, and literally just does a little conducting pattern, and boom, we all start together. So everybody feels like they're really comfortable. I can tell you from personal experience, the first coming out and playing, the most uncomfortable thing, and the professionals here could probably agree, you know, it's when you're playing something a little, time is unsure within the first 3 or 4 measures. It feels like it sets up like the rest of the piece to just go like, where is is a downbeat. Didn't feel like that necessarily, but it might help you to feel a little bit more comfortable. Also, the idea of starting to think about what can be heard. Did you guys ever do something where maybe one of you goes out and listens while the rest of you play and kind of have that thought? I know you probably have, Mike, your teacher does that, I guess. It might be nice for you guys to do that individually, just so you hear what it sounds like. Not to keep on picking on the triangle player, but it's not really picking on, I'm sure you're great, but it might maybe something like that, if everybody had a chance to hear it, you'd all get that shared learning experience of going, oh, maybe I could use softer mallets on the timpani here, maybe I could use harder mallets on the marimba here, or something like that. So my comments are more general.
Yeah, that's great. I was just going to piggyback off that. In particular, to the second piece, the visual communication, bobbing or having somebody that you are listening to a little more intently or watching and listening to at the same time might help for the second piece in terms of locking in some of those 16th notes. I think when the piece started off, it might have been took a little while to get into it. Not too long, but every once in a while, there was a little bit of rhythmic separation, just very slightly. But like what Michael was talking about, those chamber music sensibilities sometimes really help with that kind of thing. And also, when you start the piece, I wasn't actually sure that you folks started. I heard some noise, and I was looking at the score, and I was like, oh, that's the sound that it's supposed to be. But I didn't really realize you folks were starting just because there wasn't that sort of stage presence of we're starting the piece kind of mindset that was established. It just all of a sudden I started hearing noise and you folks started playing. So being mentally prepared before you start a piece, everyone's focused, it's kind of quiet, you're thinking to yourself what you need to do, concentrating, and then you begin. It just sort of seemed like the piece just kind of started, which is really common. That happens when you're doing fast setups and such. And then one last thing, Michael and I commented on the triangle part a lot. For the players that are doing the more auxiliary parts, that aren't necessarily up in the front playing on the marimbas or the vibraphone, your parts are sometimes even more noticeable. It's always that triangle player or the tambourine player in an orchestra, for example. They might have 3 or 4 notes in an orchestral setting, and then if they don't hit those 3 or 4 notes correctly, the conductor knows and everyone notices. But your parts are just as important as the people's parts at the front. So the whole ensemble is a real strong team concept. It's just kind of like a football team in a lot of ways, the kicker, the punter, the center. Everyone is just as important as say the quarterback, for example. And those chamber music sensibilities where everyone's cueing in on each other, listening to each other, watching each other, and really focused on everyone's playing, that all helps with a really large group like this. So I think just having that in the back of your mind and just remembering that before you start a piece and when you're approaching your performances and your competitions, that will probably really help you perform at a higher level. And you already have a great start, so it sounds great. Everyone's doing really well, so I'm super impressed. Good work.
Thanks, guys.